Doctor Who review. Today is about the girl who died. 5 categories, as per usual. First being storyline and concept. It's alright, it left me confused to start off with. I don't know, like I was just watching the episode thinking, I think I'm missing something here. There's something that I've missed earlier on, and I went back to watch it pretty much straight after the episode finished off, and there was nothing else. It was just like I missed something that wasn't there, if you get what I mean. I can't remember the last time that we had a story set in the Viking era, if we've had one at all. So in terms of like the actual era itself and the actual place itself, it's very original. In elements, it is a very original story, and that is for me part and parcel because it is written by Jamie Matheson, the person who wrote The Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline last season, which was my 2 favourite episodes of Series 8. Storyline and concept gets a 3 out of 5 from me. Next is character portrayal. Now, I think that the Doctor was better in this episode. Whilst you did have some of his, or the Series 9 trademark, mucking around with the whole yo-yo and him pretending to be Odin, I feel like this episode had not a lot of faff to it in terms of the Doctor. The Doctor was the Doctor. He solved things, and good. He wasn't straying away from what he was meant to be. In terms of Ishilda, who was played by Maisie Williams, or Maisie as I prefer to pronounce it, I think that the character was portrayed well, but I'm left confused, and I don't know whether that was down to Maisie Williams herself or whether that was down to the writing, most likely the latter, because the ending I didn't know, and I'll cover that come the last category. So character portrayal gets a 3.5 out of 5 from me. Next is antagonist impression. Now, this episode, Odin and his gang of merry men, if we're to refer it to like Robot and Sherwood, didn't feel like a thing in this episode. They felt like a side note. I don't know whether that was because Maisie Williams was in this episode and maybe I paid more attention to her, maybe try and see how her character develops and how important she was in this episode, or maybe because the actual writers made it feel like it was the Doctor, Clara and Maisie, and that was all that mattered in the episode. For me, I don't think that they made an impression. Antagonist impression gets a 2 out of 5 from me, mainly because they just weren't in the episode. Well, not in, but they weren't in the episode at all. Next is special effects. So the 2 effects which I want to talk about here are the electricity effect that was shown with eels, and that was pretty standard. It was alright, although in fairness, you don't quite get that with electric eels. I don't think electric eels provide enough electric charge to actually show a visible effect, but in terms of actually showing what happened, which I think is more important than actually being realistic, for the effect itself, it was actually pretty good. And the second thing is Odin. Now, I'm going to quickly show you what Odin was. So it's essentially just the face in the sky, and the way that they did this was quite simple. Green screen. They would have placed Odin himself in a green screen with some form of like coat on, which was green as well. They would have chroma keyed, which is essentially like taking out the green and turning it into a transparent colour, and then place him onto the actual like sky effect itself. And I know that you could technically call this nitpicking and a not very important effect. I think that it is a good thing to assess. It's not just the storytelling, it's the actual visuals and how much the actual like special effects people put in the work to make it look visually impressive. So this episode gets another 3.5 out of 5 for me. Next is personal enjoyment. If you know me, I take my review scores from Twitter, and boy, I had a lot to talk about on Twitter. It was a 7 out of 10 overall, which is a 3.5 out of 5. So this episode overall gets a 3.1 out of 5. Now this episode I think was generally better quality. If we're going to take this episode as just one episode rather than the actual 2 parts that it is, this episode left me intrigued but also left me feel like it was too short by a little bit. And this is the main problem that I have with this episode, is the whole Maisie Williams, who is she? And obviously you can say, oh, but she's a Shootout and now she's going to be a hybrid. But usually when you talk about two-parters and the end of two-parters, or the end of the first part of the two-parters, you get a cliffhanger, and usually what happens in that is something, either a problem is presented or a revelation is made. And I feel like cliffhangers can be split into those two categories, and you can generally work them out very well. Not saying that it's going to be 100% those two categories, it may be a mix of both, or maybe it's something else. But 9 times out of 10 it's going to be one of those two categories for certain. This episode had none of that. It was just saying, well, she's a hybrid, and that's it. So, and I just went, so she's a hybrid. It just felt like it was missing 5 seconds from the episode where it just went, oh yeah, I'm Missy's daughter, for instance. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't watched me before or haven't watched any of my reviews, I seriously suggest that you do, because I'm doing this every week and I plan to do more of them when Doctor Who Series 9 finishes, about the classic episodes. So if you want to check out the playlist is over there, it's good stuff. And if you want to check out the previous review, which I did, which was Before the Flood, you can go to there. And if you want to catch up on future updates of Doctor Who review, which comes out every Monday for the next 6 extra weeks on top of this, and also other stuff which I'm doing as well in terms of gaming, Formula 1, other Doctor Who related stuff, subscribe button is over there if you really want to. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I've been Ballum. This is the end credits. Signing out. All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.